Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast All Day. Christy and Alonso, it's another week gone by. Matt continues his hiatus, but we hope he'll be back soon and hope he's doing real well. And we're glad that you're here with us again this week. Christy's got her list. What went down?
So much, but we're going to do speed round because we're in between like screenings and meetings and childcare issues,
Yes.
and we're going to do it fast. But we have actual breaking news that occurred earlier today, which is that the New York Film Critics Circle, our friends across the way, did their voting today. We do ours for LAFCA on December 18th, but they like to be early on December 3rd, man. So
if they can get it all watched by then, good on them. I'm still working on it.
There are big things still that I have not seen. So, but we'll get to that. So they picked Drive My Car, the Japanese film Drive My Car, 3-hour long Japanese film as Best Picture. Like that's their Best Picture winner.
Yeah,
Alonso, have you watched it yet?
No, that is on my list of movies to watch. And it's now, I probably moved up a few notches thanks to New York, but it's definitely one I'm going to look at. I have seen that director's film Happy Hour, which I'm a big fan of. And I've heard nothing but great things about Drive My Car since it premiered at Cannes. So absolutely. Have you seen it?
I have watched the first half of it. Okay. Before we met today, I watched the first hour and a half of it and then had to come and get ready to come see you. But it's quite lovely. Yeah, that's the thing is like we're cramming in so much stuff and it all matters and it's all long. And so, right. And so also real fast, New York Film Critics, they picked Jane Campion as Best Director for The Power of the Dog, which we are going to review today here. And they picked Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Lost Daughter as Best First Feature. And some interesting acting winners: Benedict Cumberbatch for Power of the Dog, which is getting a lot of praise, and Lady Gaga for Best Actress. Also, Most Actress.
Yeah, I never like to judge another critics group for their choices, but wow. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are some interesting ones. And then Flea, which is like animated and foreign language and a documentary, one for nonfiction film. So.
Yes, also on my list to see. I've been, ever since Carlos Aguilar raved about it at Sundance, I've been dying to see it. And they also, speaking of animation, picked Mitchells versus the Machines as their animated film. Yeah. So as Guy Lodge pointed out, between Power of the Dog, Lost Daughter, and Mitchells, that's a lot of Netflix movies.
Well, yes, they are campaigning this year, aren't they?
Well, I mean, they got good stuff. I don't think anybody's sitting there thinking, "Ooh, I'm going to support Netflix titles," or "I'm not going to." Well, maybe somebody's saying, "I'm not going to support Netflix titles," but they it's like A24 Neon. Like you sometimes hit those years where they just got all the good stuff.
Right. So, so that happened today. Also, the National Board of Review, which is customarily the first, they are a collection of film historians and writers, whatever. They picked their top 10, but their best picture of the year is Licorice Pizza.
Yes.
Which we like. And then the Gotham Awards were this past week, and The Lost Daughter did really well. It won a whole bunch. So including, I think it won Best Picture, Best Screenplay for Maggie Gyllenhaal, maybe Best Director. It won a bunch of stuff.
I forget. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, there's, it's funny how you can go through most of the year thinking, yeah, I mean, I guess it's an okay year. And then suddenly you have to pick things. It's like, oh, wait, I have all these contenders for this award that I want to give out.
Yeah. So like this week, Alonso, you and I had the pleasure of actually hugging in person. Yes. We saw West Side Story together, and we'll have a review of that next week.
Right.
And then the first screenings of Nightmare Alley are happening. It happened. You saw it a couple nights ago.
Yeah, right? I went Wednesday. They had an LA screening that started at 5 so that it could be simultaneous with the New York premiere at 8. And then that was a weird one because they didn't have an embargo. Usually like we'll see a movie, but then they'll give us a couple days where everybody has to like launch all their reviews at the same time. And 20th was like, nope. Once that screening's over, it's the Oklahoma land rush. So I had to run home and like, turn something out.
Which I'm guessing is a pretty dense movie that you want to have some more time with.
Not so much. I wish it had been. I was glad to have the time to sit on West Side Story, but yeah, Nightmare Alley. Anyway, we'll talk about that when it opens.
Yes, that comes out in a couple of weeks. I'm seeing that on Monday, but it is sort of like the mad dash of all the stuff that matters for sure. And then still trying to figure out when to see Don't Look Up. That's coming out next week.
We're reviewing it. As we're done here today.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you're seeing it today, and then I got to find a time to see it. But anyway, it is that magical time of year where everything matters, and it's all 2 hours and 37 minutes long without fail.
Yeah, no kidding.
Also, breaking news happened a week ago. This is old now, but without fail, something happens like right after we click out of Zoom, and that is that Stephen Sondheim died.
Yes. Stephen, speaking of West Side Story,
Right.
one of the great artists of the American musical theater, lyricist, composer, did it all, and really moved the genre forward in a lot of ways, and tested the boundaries and really sort of challenged the norms. I saw somebody saying, oh, we need to start seeing repertory series of Sondheim on film, and the movies have been kind of a mixed bag for him, I think. But if you look at just strictly from a stage point of view, just so many great shows, Company, and Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and Into the Woods, and Sweeney Todd, and Pacific Overtures, and Merrily We Roll Along, and on and on and on. But just a great craftsman, and still active. Was on Colbert not that long ago, talking about West Side Story, was still working on a musical in the last few years. He was trying to convert Luis Buñuel's Exterminating Angel and Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie into a one big musical about dinner parties, which I would have killed to have seen, but he never finished it, or he abandoned it or something. But anyway, just a legend. Yeah.
And like the melody's so complex, so hard to sing, and like so densely packed, the lyrics and the wordplay, like you really have to be like at peak form in terms of technique, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for
really
sure.
Pull out, which is why people like Angela Lansbury or Elaine Stritch, or like younger people like Anna Kendrick, can have the verbal capability to wrap their tongues around the wordplay, because it's not for everyone.
If you don't really know much about Sondheim and you want to kind of dip your foot in, check out the recent Criterion release of the D.A. Pennebaker documentary Original Cast Album Company, which is about the recording of the cast album of the that they put out for that show, which was a big groundbreaker in a lot of ways. The movie will give you a taste for it, and a taste for the performances and the lyrics and all the things that make him so incredible. But go from there, because you'll have a lot to discover, and he's amazing.
And there was a clip that I think several folks posted, and you might be one of them, of Anna Kendrick in the movie Camp, doing Ladies Who Lunch and just fucking killing it, like as a teenager.
Oh, she was like 12, I think. Right? That's when I knew. I was like, all right, that gal is going places.
And also, we talked about Tick, Tick, Boom. I think it was maybe just last week or 2 weeks ago. And there's so much Sondheim worship. Yeah, Bradley Whitford plays Stephen Sondheim. Jonathan Larson, of course, worshipped Sondheim. And it's a sweet thing that Lin-Manuel Miranda has discussed, which is that is Sondheim's voice on the answering machine, and he wrote the thing that he says on it. I guess Miranda had written something, and Sondheim was like, would you mind if I take a pass at this? And like, I tweak it a little bit. And Lin-Manuel Miranda is like, of course, like I'll take a rewrite from Sondheim. Sure. Why not? So there's a New York Times story very recently, like a few days before he died, an interview with him at his house, just being like, I'm planning to go see more shows. And he was 91, but doing stuff.
Also co-screenwriter of one of the great murder mysteries of all time, The Last of Sheila. If you've never seen that, go check it out.
I've not. So that happened.
Christy.
I know.
I envy you getting to see it for the first time.
We'll have to find a way to watch it and talk about it. Maybe. Let's do it.
Okay.
Also, over the last several days, I don't know if you dipped into this, but we did the 8-hour-long Peter Jackson Beatles documentary. Did you watch any of this?
Not yet. That is something, since I don't have to see it, I'm holding it for like Christmas break, maybe. But I am interested. I do want to see it. I loved his World War I doc. So,
We watched the first 2 parts of it.
Okay.
And then Chris went out of town, and I promised him I wouldn't watch part 3 without him. So when he gets back to where he once belonged, I will watch it with him. But like, I'm not a giant Beatles fan, but it's really fascinating to watch from a process perspective.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
Songs that you've heard a million times, you will appreciate all over again in a totally new way, like watching them work through the lyrics to Get Back, for example, like figuring out what JoJo's name should be and like where he should be from and like what's his story. And then like a lot of it's just messing around, and it seems kind of mundane and like repetitive. And then Paul will just say like, well, here's something I've just kind of been tinkering with. And then he sits down and plays The Long and Winding Road. And like you hear him kind of like tinkering in the background, like trying to figure out Let It Be. It's really cool.
It's funny. The first wave of people talking about it was like, oh my God, Paul's so amazing. He's keeping it all together. And he's da, da, da. And then the second wave was like, fucking George had things to say. And Paul and John just kept pushing him to the side. So like, I'm fascinated to see this thing and how it portrays these guys.
Paul and John cannot hide their disdain for how pedestrian they think George's lyrics are. Right. And George like up and quits, and like not in a huff, not with any kind of histrionics, but just like says, I think I'm leaving now. And then he writes in his journal, like went to rehearsal, left the Beatles, came home. Right. So, and then Ringo is just like peace and love, just like hanging out. Like there's a million cutaways to Ringo, just kind of smirking and just being quiet and taking it all in. And
I hear it exonerates Yoko from the whole broke up the Beatles thing. Basically, they did it themselves. Or not. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. So.
But like she's at John's elbow perpetually. Like John's sitting in a chair. She's next to him. John gets on the floor. She's next to him. Like she's constantly there. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily Yoko that broke them up. But anyway, it's really interesting and made me appreciate them as artists, as craftsmen. So I got to watch part 3 still, because part 3 is the big concert. So there is that. A story that here in LA, a lot of folks have been talking about. I don't know if it's gotten out across the country. This horrific killing of 81-year-old philanthropist Jacqueline Avant, who was the wife of like legendary music producer and like very connected political guy, Clarence Avant. He is the subject of a Netflix documentary called The Black Godfather. Have you seen The Black Godfather?
I have not.
I have not either. But their daughter is Nicole Avant, who was the U.S. ambassador to the Bahamas, who was also married to Ted Sarandis. So there's a Netflix documentary about her dad. But Jacqueline Avant like was so adored in so many different circles for so long that you saw an outpouring of love for her from like the likes of Tyler Perry, Magic Johnson, and Bill Clinton. Like they ran in like sports, music, entertainment, politics circles, and they were big Democratic fundraisers. And she was killed at like 2:30 in the morning in their house in Truesdale Estates, which is a very wealthy little enclave of Beverly Hills. Horrible, horrible story. And then they found a suspect.
Right.
Because the dude literally shot himself in the foot at another home invasion attempt. Nice. Shot himself in the foot. So if you want to know more about this family and all that they have done culturally, politically, The Black Godfather is on Netflix. Alec Baldwin did a big interview last night with George Stephanopoulos about the Rust shooting that resulted in the death of Helena Hutchins. And he says he didn't pull a trigger. Like, is it parsing? Like he pulled the gun out, but says like it just went off. Like something out of Chicago. We both reached for the gun.
Exactly. Yeah. I honestly don't know what to make of this. I mean, like on the one hand, he was there and we were not, right. But certainly the weird thing about this is, I mean, obviously a tragedy, no matter how you slice it. The fact that it's Alec Baldwin, I think, allows a lot of people to act in bad faith in talking about this, just because he is such a generally divisive figure. I think there are a lot of people who are ready to just swoop on this story with like a half a notion of what it's about even. I'm not saying that he is not to blame. I'm just saying I think there's a lot of people who feel, pardon the expression, gunning for him because they don't like him for other reasons. So I would, this is one of those stories where I'm like, you know what, it's being investigated. At some point a report is going to come out, they're going to tell us everything, and everything else is just kind of white noise in the meantime.
Yeah, he says, I mean, he gets very choked up at one point in talking about this. He says this is the worst thing he has ever done in his life. But then George Stephanopoulos asks him, do you feel guilt about this? And he kind of says no, because he feels like it's not his fault.
But did they ask him about the fact how his role as a producer and how that might have led to other?
Yes, because he says, because their producers do different things, and he said his role as producer was like casting and like script decisions, but not money, right? Like
Right.
a producer role as a fundraiser,
Sure.
not that, and not like the logistics of how things went on the set. So it sounds
Gotcha.
like kind of a figurehead role because he's a giant star.
Sure.
He says he has no idea how a live round got on set and into that gun. Like that's the big question is like, how did this happen? There were supposed to be live rounds. I apologize, the gardeners are here. So it's noisy, but he doesn't know. Anyway, it's a lot.
Yeah, I need to check that out.
Yes. Matthew McConaughey not running for governor of Texas. Did you watch the 3-minute video he put out?
Hooray. No, I did not, but I was just relieved to hear it because we don't need any more actors in politics.
We don't. 2 minutes of it, 2 minutes of the 3-minute video are him just talking about, I have been approached by many people and there are many paths that could be in front of me. And
is he behind the wheel of a Lincoln while he's saying?
No, I wish. But he's got flags. He got like an American flag behind him and like a Texas flag. And anyway, it looks like it's a total bait and switch. It looks like a campaign announcement video because he has the American flag behind him.
But it's a campaign denial.
And
video.
then he's like, I have been so humbled by the many people who have suggested that I throw my hat in the ring. And so basically he says like, I'm not going to. I'm going to use my clout for other projects that matter and other philanthropic efforts. And anyway,
yeah,
he's not running for governor. Some other Democrat, although he didn't even say he was a Democrat, did he? He never in any way established that.
Well, Beto's running, right?
Beto is running. And I wonder how much that had an effect on his thinking. Or maybe he never was. Who knows?
Who knows?
The Gucci family does not like House of Gucci.
Well, no one else does, so why should they be alone?
Not true. The New York Film Critics Circle at least like Lady Gaga's performance.
Yes, no, I was going for the joke. That movie does have its partisans.
Yes.
Absolutely. Matt Zoller Sites has been defending it quite vocally of late. Well, yes. Look, nobody wants to have their dirty laundry in a major motion picture anyway. But I think if your family tragedy is being portrayed in a movie that a lot of people find sort of campy and ridiculous, that's maybe even worse.
Yeah, like Paolo isn't as much of a ridiculous buffoon as Jared Leto portrays him to be.
I don't see how he could be.
It's so cartoonish, right? So that was that. We will have more Tom Holland as Spider-Man. In a couple of weeks, we get Spider-Man No Way Home, which my child is very excited about. Mm-hmm. Have not even heard about screenings of that yet. We need to figure out when we're going to see that. That's December 17th. It comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I haven't heard a peep. He will be Spider-Man by the time this is over, I suppose. But
yes, he will eventually be as old as like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were. Weren't they like 29 years old when they played Spider-Man?
Yeah. But I mean, like this is a character that's been around so long. There's been so many versions of him, and now there's so many, alternate universe versions of him that you can do whatever you want.
Yes. Anyway, Amy Pascal said that Tom Holland will continue to play Spider-Man. And for those of you who care about these celebrity things, Tom Holland and Zendaya stepped out together on the red carpet for the first time.
Yes.
As a couple.
I love the idea that like you have to do this thing to make it official. Like, oh, well, have they done a red carpet together yet? Oh, well, then we don't know really what this is,
Is she wearing a backless dress? And is he putting his hand on the small of her back on the backless dress? People are taking pictures of them, then it's official. So that's exciting. So they are together, but you know who's apart? I don't think I ever even heard about this when it first happened. Adam McKay and Will Ferrell had this big ugly split. Do you remember this?
We talked about it on Maximum Film this week. Yeah, those big Vanity Fair interview with Adam McKay. Yeah. Where and I kind of see where things went south because first, like apparently Adam McKay recast a role that Will Ferrell was going to play. Wow. And then when he tried to sort of reach out to have some sort of rapprochement, Adam McKay is like, I reached out to him, tell him that I wanted us to work it all out, but I also let him know about slights that I had suffered over the years as well. I'm like, oh, I can see how that conversation didn't work out.
I too have some grievances.
Yes.
So there's this big HBO thing about the Lakers in the 80s, and Will Ferrell wanted to play Jerry Buss. Right. But I guess the thing with this is that they really want to cast people who look like the people who they're playing. Yeah. Right. It's not like a big goofy parody. It's like he's taking it seriously because he's in serious Adam McKay mode now. It's based on this Jeff Pearlman book about the Showtime Lakers. And so Adam McKay cast John C. Reilly.
Right.
And Will Ferrell found out about that from John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
And not from Adam McKay, who was like
another,
his best friend and producing partner.
another way this might have been better handled.
Yes.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. So there is that. Have you ever watched Daystar Television, Alonso?
I have not, but I did hear this story.
Daystar Television, based in Dallas, Texas. The head of it, Marcus Lamb, a notorious anti-vaxxer spreading all kinds of propaganda. Guess what he died of? Just guess.
COVID-19.
It was indeed COVID-19. So, putting out all kinds of awful information. I guess it's like the second largest Christian network behind CBN.
Yeah. And the thing about these satellite networks is you have to remember, it's not just an American thing. I read a tweet from a pastor who said when he was in Africa, you would see Daystar everywhere, and that to a larger extent, the whole sort of prosperity gospel thing has really infected that part of the world now. And so you have these people who, rather than wanting to be like your old school sort of Billy Graham, get the word of Jesus out types, not that Billy Graham doesn't have some dirt on his hands, but now they are full bore, like, give me your money and God will rain blessings on you kind of thing, which was bad enough here, but now we're exporting it too. So great.
Yeah. Shocking that he died of COVID. Speaking of being anti-vax, Dr. Oz is running for Senate out of Pennsylvania, where he hasn't lived for decades.
As a Republican. So
yes. And part of his announcement was talking about making America first. Like he's definitely borrowing the phrasing.
Yeah. Well, to quote my husband on this one, thanks, Oprah.
Yeah. Jack Dorsey is stepping down he has stepped down as the CEO of Twitter.
Yeah.
And now it's more engineering minded guy, more of like a tech guy who's
and they're already talking about how they're going to pull down videos where the person being taped doesn't give consent. I'm like, oh, so great. So now when we catch cops on camera, Twitter will pull down, that kind of thing. So
that's interesting.
It just gets better and better.
Yes, a few more things. Speaking of people behaving badly, CNN has suspended Chris Cuomo. Because all this time, Chris Cuomo has been saying, oh, I didn't help my brother at all. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, when he was accused of sexual harassment and had to step down, finally stepped down. And apparently there are all kinds of emails and texts that have surfaced with him, like Chris Cuomo trying to use his journalistic contacts to find out what other news organizations were reporting and trying to stop other women from coming forward. Like, it's really ugly. And I don't know how he survives it. Like, how do you put that person back on the air?
No, I think CNN, if this all plays out where there's, they have a definite paper trail or whatever, like, they have to can him.
There's no way. Like, he's not like some random guy. He's one of their main anchors, like one of the main faces of the network. So it's all bad. Here's something good. A very gulag Christmas. Not gulag, ghoul log on Shudder.
And what is a ghoul log?
It's like Yule log, but with a pumpkin, like a jack-o'-lantern next to the Yule log. And it plays, on a loop like a Yule log would. Ghoul log.
Okay.
It's an unfortunate name because if you say it too fast, it sounds like gulag.
Yeah. I was picturing something more like, the ending of Edgar Allan Poe's Hop Frog or something, but maybe that's a hard thing to keep on screen for a long time.
It's like, there's a lot of different Yule logs. As you know, you're the guy.
I do indeed.
This is a Halloween themed Yule log.
Okay.
That's on Shudder, the horror network Shudder. John Waters, who always has really interesting taste in film, has put out his annual top 10.
Oh, nice.
Number 1 is Annette.
Okay. Yeah, that scans entirely.
Right. It's a strange movie. He always has a very random cross section to film. So among them are Annette, the documentary Summer of Soul, Red Rocket, France, which I really want to see, starring Léa Seydoux as a TV news anchor. I hear it's great
too.
And then Tragedy of Macbeth is also on there. So
did he also put like the new Tom 6 on just because he knew it would infuriate everyone?
Yeah. That's John Waters. And then some sad news, Eddie Mecca, Carmine Ragusa from Laverne and Shirley. The big ragu has died. He was 69. He had some kind of blood clots. He was barely walking toward the end. And so he died at his home in Newhall, California, in Santa Clarita, just north of downtown LA. Big ragu.
His coworkers spoke lovingly of him.
Michael McKean tweeted about him. Yes.
Yes, and Cindy Williams too, I think.
Oh, that's nice. Anyway, that is what I have for you for news.
Whew. All right. Well, you know what? It is the holidays, and this stuff just doesn't slow down for December. So, all right, golly. Well, listen. Thanks everybody for watching. Like this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us at BeFast All Day on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We're talking about Hawkeye. We're talking about The Great. We're still taking some votes on our monthly Off the Menu, where we're going to do an art house Christmas movie that we've never reviewed before. So lots of cool stuff happening over there. Become one of our subscribers. You won't be sorry. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.
Bye.